Thank you very much to our program director, Advocate Muthuvelu. So please, when it's 7 minutes, you give me a tap on the shoulder and tell me 1 minute left. Because when you give the podium to a politician, you know, he could stay the whole day at the mic. Let me firstly recognize His Excellency, the President of Mauritius, President Vaipuri. Thank you for being here. Let me also recognize my dear friend, Dr. V.R.S. Sampath, who is more a brother to me now, and who's dragged me into this World Tamil Economic Forum over the last 3 years. And to our distinguished panel of speakers, and you've just been addressed by Justice Vimala and the other speakers who are present. To all of the dignitaries who are here, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, my humble vanakams to one and all of you. Firstly, I would like to say that, and in my speech yesterday, I made reference to my involvement in the Natal Indian Congress, which was formed by Mahatma Gandhi in 1894. It was, for many years, the only political formation in South Africa that was not banned and that enjoyed some level of free political activity. It was Gandhiji's trinity, his philosophy of Satyagraha, Ahimsa, and Sarvodaya that was crafted in South Africa. It was Nelson Mandela who said that India gave South Africa Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. We returned to India a Mahatma. I thought it was profound words by Mandela, but for us it's about the philosophy and teachings of Gandhiji. Sarvodaya, the welfare of people, resonates with the African philosophy of Ubuntu. Ubuntu means, translated from Zulu, I am because of you. It recognizes the interdependence of all people. Like you say in India, Vasudeva Kutumbukum, the world is one family. And in Africa, they say it takes a village to raise a child. Now, some of these philosophies have been lost over a period of time. In this modern 21st century, we have forgotten all of these beliefs and teachings. We live in a very much material world. It's a rat race, people striving to accumulate wealth and live a fancy life. But it was Lenin who said, man's dearest possession is his life. It is given to him to live but once. He must so live as to have no torturing regrets of a wasted life. So live that dying, he could say, all my life, all my strength was given to the finest cause on earth, the freedom of mankind. Freedom is not only free political activity. It's freedom from hunger, freedom from poverty, freedom from illiteracy, freedom from a lack of development. And if we embrace that philosophy, the holistic view of freedom, then we'll realize we have a responsibility to our fellow beings in our country, in our region, as the case may be. For the Tamil diaspora, I think it's something that we should seriously consider about the role we can play in our own country in helping to develop the less fortunate, the poorest of the poor in our communities. Very soon we'll be observing the Festival of Lights, Deepavali, throughout the world. In South Africa, I know that many of the religious and cultural groups prepare grocery hampers which they give to the poor people, in particular people that live in informal settlements in in squatter camps, as they are called. And it's something that we need to do not only during the time of Deepavali, but throughout the year in helping our fellow brothers and sisters. Those of us in the Indian diaspora throughout the world will obviously have to deal with a sensitive issue of the indigenous people, and to ensure that inasmuch we are successful in life, that we help our fellow brothers and sisters. For there can be no social cohesion and stability in society if people remain poor all their lives. Now, on the question of corporate social responsibility, corporate social investment, CSI, as we call it in South Africa, behoves companies, trading enterprises, those in the business world, to make a contribution to the less fortunate in our society. And we find many in South Africa that embark on a variety of programs. It could be in the rural villages, building schools, providing sanitation, bringing water to homes, and many of the social issues that beset our communities even in this 21st century. South Africa in particular has a skewed history of racial exclusion. Today, the majority still face the challenge of access to basic services, access to education, health, and all the other requirements for a good life. The new government has to deal with this legacy of trying to bridge the gap of the past and the present, of making sure that all citizens enjoy a better quality of life. But you know that government alone can't do this. It has to involve society as a whole, the non-governmental organizations, the NGOs, community-based organizations, but in particular, the corporates in your communities, in your country, have to play a role in contributing towards the upliftment of society as a whole. You'll find in South Africa that the face of corporate, the world is white. And that's because of the skewed nature. Until in the last 20 years, we have had government policies that accelerated black economic empowerment, bringing black people now into the world of business. And whilst that's changing, the predominant face of business in South Africa is still white. And sometimes you need to introduce legislation to force companies to make sure that they contribute towards corporate social programs. The point I want to raise about the Indian community in South Africa. And like I said, many of the diasporic communities that went to Mauritius, Seychelles, South Africa, the West Indies, went as indentured laborers to work the sugar fields, and they worked from sunrise to sunset, toiling the fields. It was a tough life, but notwithstanding the fact that they were paid a pittance, the Indian community put money away to build places of worship like the temples and to build schools so that future generations of their community would be educated and would have a better life and break out of the cycle of poverty. And that's true, like I said yesterday, today, when you see the South African society and the role that the Indian community plays, the advancement that they have made in the world of politics, business, social welfare, education, and the like, you understand that the investment made by our forefathers, the cane cutters, over 160 years ago, is paying dividends today. They put the pittance that they earned into the education of future generations of their children. So I stand here proudly today to say that my great-grandfather, Ramya Sada Naidu, who came from North Arcot district, was one of those cane cutters who wanted us, the future generations, to live a better life. We owe it to fellow South Africans, and likewise in your own respective countries, to make sure that we contribute towards creating better lives for all of our citizens. Last year in Durban, and Dr. Sampath will tell you, we spoke about the creation of a Tamil bank. And I think it's something we must consider, the important role a Tamil bank can play in promoting businesses within the Indian diaspora in a general sense, and the role that it can play even in corporate social responsibility. I want to highlight something to you. The Hindu community in South Africa always struggle to build a temple. We never have the funding. It takes sometimes 15, 20 years before a temple could be built. Other religious groups, and I'm not saying it in a negative way, get overseas funding to build their places of worship. The Tamil and Hindu community generally do not. They have to raise their own funds within their own countries to build their place of worship. Today you go to a city like Durban, which is home to 1.5 million people of Indian origin. The skyline is dotted with temples that have been built, monuments and legacies of our forefathers. That was built, the blood, sweat and tears of our forefathers. And I think that the Tamil Bank can play a valuable role in promoting our language, our religion, our culture, over and above promoting local businesses as such. So it's something that we can certainly consider. And I think on the issue of corporate social responsibility, last year, if you were in Durban at the conference, we gave 2 awards to Mr. Vivian Reddy and from Durban and Karthiges and Muthusamy from Johannesburg. These are 2 prominent Tamil business persons in South Africa. They have done wonderfully well, but I can tell you they give to charity on a regular basis. They contribute towards the upliftment of not only the Tamil community, but the South African community as a whole. And that's the challenge we're posing today from this conference to the corporates in the Indian diaspora, in India, and all over the world, to make the contribution to create a better life for all of our citizens. Nandri, Vanakkam.
Thank you, Mr. Logi Naidu, for your inspiring speech. In spite of the independence, the colonial countries have been suffering from the very same slavery, because they have to come out from the come out from the sufferings of hunger and poverty. This main theme of your speech is very essential for at the present time. Now I request Mr. Bala Balendra to present his views on this topic.